So this is the 1440 hours GMT edition of the Khoodeelaar television channel that is being broadcast on the internet. Not on satellite, not on terrestrial, not on cable platforms. This is this is Tuesday, the 9th of August 2022. And we are doing an update on the question that I put to the formally assembled full council of the London Borough of Tower Hamlets Council in 2013. Formal council means that it was officially called the full council meeting, and for the record, it was full council. But essentially, the decisions of the council were being made by the incumbent, that is, holder of the post of the so-called elected mayor. My question was not about the existence of the elected mayor whatsoever. As you can see, the text of my question did not refer to the mayor, so-called, nor did my explanation, the statement that I made in terms of putting my question formally, nor did that statement contain any reference to any word called mayor. So that was consistently representative of my personal view as well as the view of my organizations and the campaigns, to the effect that imposing an elected mayor on the London Borough of Tower Hamlets and its population was wrong, against democracy, and it was counterproductive in terms of producing any real, lasting, or significant benefit for the people, ordinary people in the ordinary community Tower Hamlets. So why did they actually not answer the question? Because the person who was put up there for answering my question is no longer a member of the council. I have no idea what she is doing, but it is possible that she is kind of employed as a school teacher. Whatever she is doing now could not be in any way, shape, or form ever be treated as in any way any justification for her statement in support reply to my question. My question was not contrary to the impression that may be given by the simplicity of my question. This question is far more complicated, and was complicated, and is complicated, and will remain complicated, far more complicated than any of the many cabals that operate in the name of the London Borough of Tower Hamlets, or especially the cabals that operate in the name of the so-called community called the Bangladeshi community in Tower Hamlets or in the rest of the UK, because these parades of the community do not justify the parades as they are held. They don't justify the collective name that is given to the parades. And what happened on that occasion, on the occasion of my putting the question to the Tower Hamlets Council morons, was that two white people were present, and the majority of the the overwhelming majority of the people on the so-called public gallery. It's not a gallery at all, but that is what it is called anyway. That gallery, the individuals on the gallery, so-called, were made of, were constituents of the diversionary, pro-slavery, pro-imperialist activities that the present day So what was the point where we stopped? That particular statement. Let's try again. The person that was kind of displayed or exhibited as if she knew what my question was called somebody at the time called Rania Khan. Rania Khan and her mom became elected councillors for the first time in 2006. At that angle, mom and daughter provided the lefties and the softies quite a bit of seriousness, as they reverentially refer to the mom and the daughter as politicians, etc. But the secret was that Rania Khan and her mom were the successful candidates for the same election from the Labour Party. And one of the Labour Party councillors at the 2005 election came across as a genuine kind of member of the Labour Party, Labour principle, Labour tradition, etc. That person is no longer a member of the Labour Party, nor are many of in fact, most of the people that paraded in the East End of London in the name of the Labour Party. I'm going to disappear from the screen, I think, for less than a minute. So I'm back in front of the camera and saying that Rania Khan was with her mother, one of the two councillors that at the beginning belonged to the group called Respect. And Rania Khan was made the spokesperson for Lutheraman on matters to do with arts, etc. But if the contents of what she said is any guide, was any guide, and if that is what she would say today, 9 years later, the Rania Khan was clueless, completely clueless, had no idea. The fact that Lutfur Rahman had somebody called Rania Khan to spew the total, utter emptiness was itself a scandal. It's a disgrace and it was an embarrassment. The other disgrace and embarrassment and scandal was the fact that none of the white people in the council, Tower Hamlets Council, whatever the party they belonged to, it was mainly the Labour Party that they had got the platforms through. They didn't bother about questions that I put, the questions or the issues that I actually raised. I was not raising these issues because by raising them, I was in any way conceding that Lutfur Rahman was legitimately imposed. No way. I was not conceding that at all, and I will never concede that because that cannot be conceded. What I was doing was to continue the discourse, regardless of the internal composition of the council, to maintain and continue the discourse about what did matter in the long run, in the medium terms, and the short term to the people as a whole. I had no agenda. I had absolutely no agenda and shall never have any agenda to only speak out for justice when the justice has been denied to a Bangladeshi, in the context of Tower Hamlets, that is, because justice is universal and the denial of justice is as universal as the upholding of justice is. When I said when I said and I put the question as to what the council was doing about this archive, I said that as a question of monumental magnitude, of everlasting significance, that transcended 9 years ago, and it still transcends and it will continue to transcend the particular petty careeristic adjustments and facilitations and lying and corruption and denials by the cabals that operate in the name of the management of the institution concerned with the particular institution. Now, in Tower Hamlets, there are any number of schools. She'll come to the George's Green School, and we shall talk about the Stepney Green School. George's Green School first. George's Green School in the Manchester Road in the so-called Isle of Dogs was for those with eyes to see So George's Green School on the Isle of Dogs was the scene of a racist attack by white boys on a Bangladeshi boy sometime between 1993 and 1994. And to cut it short, I was sent an emergency call that I should go there and help create the solidarity with the parents and for the parents of the Bangladeshi boys and Bangladeshi children and whatever. And it is a fact. It is a fact that a man called Craig, or Craig, who was the head teacher at the time, Craig said, I mean, 1,000 teachers were, well, any day of the week, anywhere in the country, thousands of teachers are off. And when we went to the George's Green School atmosphere or territory, we found that the teachers were spreading rumors, including the rumor that a man called Muhammad Haque, who is likely to appear on our doors, he should be treated with total opposition. And so was I. So when I went to the council on the day of this particular question and said that what measures had they taken, the council had taken to address positively. When the account was given about what happened to the student, it became very clear that Craig, the head teacher, did not treat the near murder situation of the attack or the victims, attack victim. Because he said, according to a person who spoke with Craig about 2 or 3 days after the event, that Craig, had done the right thing by saying that the particular student who stood up for the other student, parent who stood up for the other parents, was doing something demagogy and something. The demagogy was not present, but they invented it. In any case, what Rania Khan said, you have to be careful about listening to this name. Rania Khan said, you're leaving one password space empty and unconfirmed. So what happened was that Rania Khan, instead of saying that the council would agree in principle to support, and there are a list of council. So what they said at the George's Green School, well, the head teacher said that the Bangladeshi boy, the victim of near murder attack by the racist white boys, could stand up and go home and go to bed covered in blankets. And once he's done that and had some sweat coming on, his severe headache brought on by being attacked by the couriers of evil. And there was nothing in the community around George's Green School that could be mobilized in quite the way that Brickland can be. And this is why the removal from their posts in Tower Hamlets School, so about 12 head teachers, took place as parts of my campaign. And the reason why each time the resolution was considered, the resolution was considered to be the removal of the head teacher, has been vindicated. One in Stepney Green School was a man called Bennett. Is it Bennett? Yes. He came after the first original racist was ousted. And then when we ousted Bennett, another racist came on. Now there is a physical issues that preclude possible access to the So this is after the interruption caused by the disconnection of the power supply to this. So that is unintended, of course, but and this is now. So 15 hours GMT, that is 16-15 hours local time in the UK. So if there is any interruption again, will probably be because of the loss of power supply. Nothing to do with the kind of loss of power supply that has been reportedly, allegedly about happening in Bangladesh. So when the cabinet, the charade of a cabinet fronted by the incumbent in the corrupt post of mayor was confected, these posts, so-called posts in the cabinet, were filled by members of the Tower Hamlets Council, including the likes of Rania Khan, on the condition that they would remain absolutely speechless, in the sense that they would not express any opinion, and they would not share any opinion with anyone else about the internal goings on, assuming that they had any access to the internal goings on to the beginning. Because Lutfi Rahman operated the regime of the elected corrupt mayor, as has been revealed, by his allowing Alibar Chaudhry to act as his de facto enforcer. So these so-called cabinet posts were not worth the papers they were written on. But the fact that somebody was a member of the cabinet gave them the appearance of a kind of legitimacy, even credibility. For example, every time that Rabina Khan, not Rania Khan, the two names, two women, both called Khan, but the first one I have mentioned today was Rania Khan. The second one that I'm beginning to mention now is Rabina Khan. So Rabina Khan was given the name of the housing, the denial of the housing rights of the community was assigned to Rabina Khan to perpetrate, while uttering completely spurious and empty words of praise in support of Lutfi Rahman. And it went on like that. And when Rania Khan, the one that was supposed to be answering my question, stood and spewed alleged answers to my question, they did not match my questions, and they did not contain the answers that were required. In my experience of dealing with the elected councillors in Tower Hamlets over the last 50 years, I have found persistent evidence of ignorance on the part of these so-called councillors, ignorance of basic facts of the council's duties to the people in the electorate. When Rania Khan stood up and went through the ritual of appearing to answer my question, she lied. Well, she lied because she retailed a pack of lies, knowing that she was lying, knowing also that she would not be challenged by any councillor present even at that time. She said that, of course, her administration supported things like what I had outlined, and that they would support what I had outlined. But that is the biggest lie. What I had outlined had never been conceived of by anybody else, either up to that time or since. And it will not be. Because it's such a profound, extensive, comprehensive, phenomenal question that I put. There's somebody of the infantile capacity, which is the average description of the members of the Lutfur Unfronted cabinet, including Lutfur himself. These were infantile contents and containers. Jonathan Swift, in his Gulliver's Travels, created the little island of Lilliput. Now, of course, the islanders, the Lilliputians were depicted as being physically too small. And accordingly, Swift assigned to the average Lilliputian the proportionate amount of emptiness on the brain. So the fact that all these things were happening, the lies, the denials, the emptiness, the insult and the ignorance were being inflicted on the people by the Lutfur-fronted cabal called the mayorship. The fact that these criminalities were being inflicted without any challenge coming from the so-called opposition gives the game away about Tower Hamlets. It was a perfect example of Lilliput. Well, it's worse than Lilliput, because the Lilliputians, when they were frustrated in trying to climb on various parts of the body of Gulliver, which were washed ashore, and which from a distance looked to the Lilliputians to be a huge, very big, very huge. The Lilliputians of Tower Hamlets Council were put in position of power despite their lacking all entitlement, all abilities to be given any say on any use of any power. For instance, in the Myland and Bow area in Tower Hamlets, several young persons, including a young father, were murdered in the last few years. All these murders were otherwise illogical because there was no substantial or substantive or significant kind of reason for any of the victims to be murdered at all. And yet, after the initial outcry about the murder, and the outcry has included the appearance of a man who thinks that he's the same as any average power, kind of intellectual person. Now, the high school in the Gulabganj town is called MC Academy. But the likes of this chairperson, and others who think in his kind of manner, they persisted in saying, asserting, establishing that the answer that Rania Khan gave was so stupid that it has to be made an example, or it has to be made to be treated as an example of the complete and utter depth of idiocy of the so-called mayor regime fronted by Luthu Rahman from October 2010 until he was ousted by Richard Mori on the 23rd of April 2015. And in between, the other news platforms or outlets that have been allowed to appear in the tribute to Brenda, also known as Queen Elizabeth II, which is ongoing right now as I broadcast this particular edition of the Baby Angel Geronimo editions at 14:20 hours GMT. We shall be talking again at length. So if anyone who might have been there and isn't there anymore, if they appear again, we shall accommodate them, but it is unlikely that they would be able to appear and make the connection. The amazing evidence of sheer infantile stupidity on the part of these elected councillors has to be suffered to be believed. For example, when I say, and I say that uniquely exclusively, consistently based on the evidence. And I mean based on the evidence as opposed to the suspicion of evidence. For example, somebody who regularly buys tobacco, any kind of tobacco, this is absolutely outrageous. Because when David Grossman interviewed a so called supporter of the Lutheraman, this so called supporter spewed a number of contradictions, including a most fantastic exclusive use of the term vindicated. He must be the only one on the face of the earth who used that particular front. Now, today's newspapers and free state newspapers, including the Daily Mail, are getting carried away with their fantasy. They have a picture, a similar identical picture or image, showing Olivia Newton-John, her dancing co-partner in the film Grease, John Travolta. They show the picture or the forms of the picture in a way suggests that they were lovers or they were very close romantically. Okay, I'm going off the screen for a few seconds. John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John are being portrayed visually that as if they were lovers. It turns out that she was suffering from cancer for 30 years. So that's a fantasy that they feed on or they feed off, whatever. Rather than the actual evidence and the facts of the life of this former actress. And there is proof again in the coverage of Olivia Newton-John that Fleet Street actually thrives on the predominance of the body of the woman, as we said before a few weeks ago, that the slightest kind of excuse given about the heat is covered by Fleet Street Sun newspaper and the Daily Mail and even the Daily Mirror, running pictures of white women without any clothes sprawled on the floors and on the couch and whatever, thus proving that they don't care about the ordinary people in society. And they have done that. They have been doing that. And I hope I can see Lorraine before she goes away tomorrow, because there is a statement to be made about the status of the various resources. There's a note that we should be expanding on. The empty cabinet, empty cabinet of Luthraman warrants, as it did at the time, that 9 of the The mass transfer of council-owned housing stock by Tower Hamlets Council to the gang of criminals called Haque during the first decade of this century. That mass denial of the rights of the community to decent housing and the mass theft and robbery of the people resource. And even when these mass acts of theft were taking place, Lutfur Rahman came across as non-existent. The Lutfur Rahman fronted kind of cabal called the mayor of Tower Hamlets, quote, elevated the likes of Rabina Khan to a point where she is now kind of over exploiting the alleged position as a member of the cabinet in Lutfur Rahman's cabal that she was given. We shall be talking about Rabina Khan's mouthing packs of lies. So these lies are on the record, being put here on the record as part of the kind of rejection of the lies that Lutfur Rahman has been telling over the years, and particularly the lies that have been told about Lutfur Rahman after the 5th of May 2022 so-called election. As I have been saying, the then Pakistan military, 1971 that is, had no international legal obligation to give Rabina Khan any message or statement from me. I have already amended that one, so no need to hand over to her the previous version of the message. The management, I mean, in the location that I'm talking about. Now, Rabina Khan was imposed as the housing, the person who perpetrated lies in miniature stupidities and propaganda appearances in the name of Lutfur Rahman about housing. And since she became a member of Tufur Ali, the member of the Tufur Ali gang, let's say, because the Shadwell The Shadwell Council constituency in Tower Hamlets is run over. That is to say, it has got far too many criminals. Far too many criminals for anyone aged up to the limit. There is inordinate amount of drug taking in Shadwell, which includes whopping, Shadwell, and most of the council ward called Shadwell. Inordinately heavy level of drug taking by the inordinately big kind of part of the cabinet and of the collection of people that form the excuse of a democratic establishment fronted by Luther Roman. At a meeting, I think in July 2013, at a meeting of the so-called cabinet, I presented a question about housing and accountability and constitution and the legality. 9 years later, I do believe that they didn't understand the question. It's not because the English was too all over the place, but because the intellectual level needed to understand the general concept and the general measures that are going to be introduced to deny the previous structure, the previous type of the road. For example, the Roman road is in Tower Hamlets, and Roman road, as the name implies, is the road that has been named after the Romans. The Romans are the rulers of England for a number of years, and England's repeated humiliation at the hands of the Romans has become the England's repeated humiliation at the hands of the peer reviewers and peer competitors and peer contestants. These humiliations have so Rabina Khan was given the portfolio, so-called, of housing. And she was totally dishonest and she lied through her teeth. So now the independent keeps popping her up every time something happens. And nothing, no matter how remote that is from her empirical experience, nobody has allowed, none of the councillors, so-called, that has been appointed so Rabina Khan lied for Colin Cormack. Rabina Khan lied for Steve Hill. Rabina Khan lied for Luther Roman. Rabina Khan lied for any number of others that cannot be named in this program because I didn't bring any. Perhaps the Lib Dems or Lib Dems have realized that their racist patronage and racist matronage in nervously over celebrating Rabina Khan's disposition to them was completely unacceptable and untrue. For example, when my question was put to them by email over a period of 2 days or so, I checked and checked and checked the contents and the grammar and the evidence. And to my horror, uh, Rabia Khan Rabina Khan was complicit with the criminality of Michael Tyrrell at the Tower Hamlets Community Housing. And so Rabina Khan was complicit with Michael Tyrrell, the lawyer, criminal, in post of the so-called CEO at the gangsters controlled Tower Hamlets Community Housing. This was the second largest gangsters controlled recipient of the robberies of the housing stock. Hello, who is that? Did you get the message that I? Oh yeah, I told you already that one was the wrong one.
Yeah, I've got that.
Oh, this one is the right one,
Yep.
but that one was the wrong one.
I'm not in there until Mary. You know Mary's here tomorrow.
Okay.
So you might have to remind her. She might not know. She's got to come and pick him up.
I will.
Okay.
I'll explain to her.
Yep, and I'll see you on Thursday.
Okay, thank you. So there is a lot of administrative activities going on. So this is 1 hour, 22 minutes and 42 seconds. And we're talking about Rabina Khan complicit with the criminal Michael Tyrrell. And Rabina Khan was complicit with the criminals of the popular Haque. Now, of the many deep kind of terrains of emptiness and stupidity that actually dominates the heads of the people who appear on these so-called programs, one thing is completely persistent, which is that whenever somebody appearing is described as a counselor or a former counselor, they are given automatically by that fact, they're conferred, they're given a kind of credibility that simply is not justified. So well, when there was this attempt at forming a campaign against the Tower Hamlets Council and Popla Harkar, destroying the community nature, community composition of the crisp street market in 2018. The people who were supposedly campaigning against the Popla Harkar and the council doing that, appearing on the programs, and I was present at a number of these programs carried from the satellite channel concerned. They had no clue as to what they were saying. And repeatedly I asked them the most basic question about whether they would go out into the streets, which is what is entailed whenever there is a campaign, genuine campaign, carrying banners and placards and etc., and going outside the particular council building and holding banners and slogans and making demands. And these people promised that they would do that they would go there and they would support the campaign against the Popla Harka and Tower Hamlets Council complete collusion and collaboration against the community nature of the Chris Street Market. What happened? They failed because they didn't actually keep their words. So if you look at the actual contents of these appearances of the so-called television channels, you'd find that there is nothing of substance in the uttered statements by these individuals. But these are leaders of various descriptions. Okay, going back to the 31st of July, this just over a week ago, there was a Facebook account that said about the Rohingya Muslims being persecuted and massacred by the Burmese, and it was claimed in the Facebook kind of account that I consulted and retrieved the information from, that there would be demonstrations against the Burmese authorities and the Burmese genociders in at least 5 or 6 big cities across the Western world. So I expected the following day, that is the 31st of July, meaning 1st of August, at least, to come across some of the follow-up posts and Facebook statements by the individual concerned that such and such demonstration took place in New York, in Washington, in London, and such demand was put on behalf of the Rohingya Muslims. And what happened? There has been no word on that Facebook account. Now this is not a one-off. This is very individual who does this kind of thing, well, who did this particular announcement, is engaged in doing these kind of particular announcements. Because within a day or two of that particular post about the Rohingya Muslims, this individual posted a still image featuring a thing called Channel S and a thing called Reality with Mahi. Now, anyone who knows about the Channel S and the reality of Channel S will know that the Mahi Ferdaus Jalil is not real. It's a fantasy. For a start, his name Ferdaus is a name stolen from somebody else. And the individual Ferdaus is a multiple times convicted criminal, fraudster. How on earth is he entitled to be expected to be treated as an objective observer, as a source of ethics and morality? In the same individual, Mahi Ferdaus Jalil was forced to broadcast a nervous apology to the Hindu population at the beginning of the pandemic in 2000. Because when the pandemic struck, it was noticed that grocery shops, including a number in Brick Lane in London in Tower Hamlets, were very fast in raising the prices of their commodity items. So, as an explanation, Mahi Ferdaus Jalil abused these shopkeepers or businesses and denounced them by saying that they were Hindus, or that they were doing that because they had in them Hindu blood. Now, this is so stupid and grotesque and unfair and untruthful and offensive that easily thousands of people signed a demand online for this criminality to be withdrawn and for the Hindus to be apologized to by the Mahi Ferdaus Jalil. So when this individual published this information about the Rohingya Muslims, plight being kind of presented to the world on the 31st of July 2022, it was expected logically that this supposed event would have taken place and it would be followed up by the same public platform that the individual runs. The individual is called Kalam Chaudhry. In the community, he is known as Abu Tahir. Some people have got distorted his second name to rhyme with the character of a Muslim character in the era. Within the lifetime or not long after the lifetime of the Prophet of Islam sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the reason why people have done that, and it resonates, is because this individual, Kalam Chaudhry, makes too many claims about too many campaigns, and almost all of which are not campaigns, and none of which has actually resulted in any victory in any significant way, except one particular thing about the name of the primary school. The name of the primary school, which is called Usmani School, and there has been a move to remove that name. That was it. So, this individual, Mahi Ferdaus Jalil, actually was being given credit by the other person, Abu Tahir or Kalam Chaudhry, as having offered or having conducted a discussion in his Reality with Mahi program, the case or cases of the Bangladeshis, overseas Bangladeshis visiting Bangladesh and getting murdered. And the post said that the participants, which prominently featured Abu Tahir, urged, meaning they were supplicating as mental slaves, urged the Bangladesh government to speedily form tribunals to try those who murdered or who have been responsible for murdering the visiting Bangladeshis. Now, this idiotic urge or urging warrants a whole program of its own, and we shall be doing that about that program, that urging. And we shall do a longer, extended edition about the original first victim in the long list, which is Surat Mia, a Bangladeshi restaurant owner in the northeast of England, who was murdered, beaten to death by airport, Bangladesh, Dhaka airport, or the international airport in Dhaka, Bangladesh. Airport staff beating him to death because he would not give them bribe. That is also something that needs further interrogation, evidentially, factually. The length of this broadcast is at this point 1 hour, 36 minutes, 44 seconds. So when you look at the evidence over the last nearly 40 years of the appearances in what is now the social media, but its equivalent, made by this person called Kalam Chaudhry, saying that he has been visiting Cardiff, Teesside, and other places where Muslims are in significant numbers. Whether they are significant majority is not possible to say, because the Bangladeshis are not the majority in the population in Tower Hamlets. And secondly, even if they were majority, which they are not, they would attract the venom and the the absence of democratic audit. The absence of democratic audit at every level of Tower Hamlets Council as well as all the other local councils in England makes it impossible for democracy to be tasted by the ordinary people at even the most minor level. As the campaigner over the last 50 years in Tower Hamlets for rights at various levels, I can confirm that there is no way that the type of campaign that I do would be possible by anyone else. And I shall spell out what I mean by anyone else. And I'm going to go off the screen for a couple of minutes. Sorry? Yeah.
Right, HT.
Don't say anything.
How?
You won't be seen, but I mean, you will be heard, you know?
Oh,
So,
okay.
no, they're,
Oh, what am I doing? I'm doing that if you want.
I'm giving this to you, and
Oh, but you want more.
Now, this is a commercial, like a commercial break. What we are doing here is not only doing world exclusive original reporting, world exclusive original diagnosis of what is going on in Tower Hamlets, and as a extrapolation from Tower Hamlets onto the rest of the image of the UK and the local councils and so on, including the so-called seat of government in Whitehall and in the seat of parliament in the so-called House of Commons, is a world exclusive, multi-layered, multi-level, original empirical reporting. So we shall be, as I said in the initial broadcast in 2020, one of the things that I would be doing is to examine item by item, word for word, the lies that the University of Birmingham confected with a criminal called Muhammad Ashgar, Ali Ashgar, in a stupid, idiotic confection called a PhD thesis. That Ali Ashgar is a criminal of such depravity that, as a warning to the others and as a record of rebutting all the lies that he confected, this criminal, his so-called PhD thesis will be torn apart, word for word by word, And this criminal midget, Ali Asghar, will be exposed for what he is. He's the devil's son. He's the son of the devil. He's a Satan. Ingrate, ungrateful moron, and mental slave. Anyone who doesn't know Tower Hamlets and who doesn't know the recorded, traceable, identifiable history of the people of Bangladeshi origin now, but originally came from East Pakistan, has to know that the people in Silot are the ones that have been and are the leaders of international travel. By the people, I identify the Siloti speakers as against the non-Siloti speakers in the surrounding areas in what is now Bangladesh and what was other parts of the pre-1947 subcontinent. For all kinds of reasons, the Siloti speakers have a unique, unbeaten record of achievement as seafarers going back to 100 and plus years. That achievement has not been anywhere near matched by anybody, any other people from any other region. So in the context of the subcontinent and the level of income, the Siloti speakers have enjoyed or have created a substantial record of being comparatively, significantly, highly well off as compared to the rest of the population now. I spent, I spent about a month in a place called Chobbish Parganas, which is not far from the city of Kolkata. And I was absolutely shocked. I was shocked to find that the people in the Chobbish Parganas, not far from the railway station, Barasat railway station, I mean, it's not far from, it's a greater kind of Kolkata metropolis, really. You could treat that as a greater Kolkata metropolis. That the people, men and women and children, I'm repeating this and take it slowly. The men and women and children of Barasat area, the area that I was kind of interacting with, had no idea what badminton, the game of badminton was. So what I did was I went to Kolkata and did some shopping, and I bought a badminton kit with the net and everything, and I came back to the village and I set up the net and the court. I created the court and I had some people play with me. And there is a crowd, unbelievable. I am absolutely delighted, but also at the same time kind of astonished that that was the case. Now, if you read Leslie Garner in the Sunday Times Color supplement, dated the 2nd of December 1973, or if you read any of the apologies or apologia published exclusively by anti-Muslim criminals in the West, promoting the prostitute book, so-called, called Brick Lane. The prostitute book called Brick Lane, quote, authored by the prostitute Monica Ali. You would see that Silotis are depicted as not only being backward, but belonging to the prehistoric period as compared to the civilized forward educated Bengalis. Now, I have given you the example of Barasat in 24 Parganas, not far from Kolkata, and the badminton game. And also, Monica, the prostitute Ali, writing a bogus book called Brick Lane. Now, Brick Lane is not a work of fiction. Brick Lane is a real street in a real world. So, in order to damn the Silotis, in order to undermine the Siloti people, somebody has been doing, periodically, somebody has been doing something to find an excuse, find a line to malign the people, Siloti speaking people. And the prostitute Monica Ali was kind of procured by her users who are left-wing, socialist, liberal, white, anti-Muslim morals. And she confected a story called Brick Lane. Now, I created Brick Lane as a dignified platform identity in December 1973, immediately as a rejoinder to the Sunday Times attack on the Siloti speakers, bylined by Leslie Garner, aided and abetted by the number of anti-Siloti Bengalis. And from December 1973 up to the time that Monica Ali, the prostitute, emerged, she was paid in advance, several million pounds by the Confederation of Anti-Silotis and Anti-Muslim Criminals as a pretext for her services as the author, the prostitute author of a prostitute book called Brick Lane. I had done the identification of Brick Lane as a unique entity decades earlier. And I had continued, and I'm still continuing, to update on and defend that identity of the street called Brick Lane. Why? Because Brick Lane, for very clear, obvious reasons, is a symbol of dignity and positive achievement by a proud people collectively that has made Bangladesh possible. When the late Tasadduq Ahmad, who came from my region, Tasadduq Ahmad, known as T. Ahmad, he passed away in 2001, I think. And at his memorial meeting, a man called a homosexual clergyman made the assertion to the effect that Bangladesh was invented or Bangladesh was created in Brick Lane. And then he recalled a supposed conversation he had with Mr. T. Ahmed about the creation of Bangladesh. Now, that was, of course, in the 1960s. And he gave credit to Mr. T. Ahmed for the concept of Bangladesh. Now, obviously, to those who didn't know or wouldn't know, don't know, that could not have been the case. Well, it could have been in a coincidence that Tasadduq Ahmad was saying things about Bangladesh on his own, separately from the other people who were meeting in Agartala in the Tripura district in India, or Tripura state in India, and other people whose secrets are being kind of published gradually by themselves and others. The fact that today's Bangladesh politically was created by Tasadduk Ahmad in Brick Lane, as asserted by this white clergyman homosexual, was so astonishing and astounding that I contacted him after that meeting and I said, could I have a meeting with him where he would give me the detailed chapter and verse about what he said Mr. Tasadduk Ahmad had claimed or had done for Bangladesh. There was no way that this guy was going to substantiate his claim. He did turn up, but he turned up as a typical liar. He turned up by arranging with Rhoda Braun, a racist woman, so that both of them would take part apparently at a meeting with me, but they would spend the whole time allocated for the meeting talking about something else, completely nothing to do with me, nothing to do with my query, nothing to do with Mr. T. Ahmad, nothing to do with Bangladesh. So that's how these two criminals sabotaged, well, what they thought they sabotaged, my effort at establishing the evidence, the facts. Because this homosexual priest made a name for himself or became notorious over the decades as being a so-called defender of the downtrodden, and by that they implied people like the Bangladeshis. In fact, his main interest was something else. I'm not going to spell it out. Most certainly not about defending the community against racists, defending the community against racism, and not defending the community against the distortion of anti-Siloti mythology produced with the help of prostitutes. Now, Monica Ali is the prostitute daughter of a Bengali father and a white mother. And that gives the game away, or part of the game away. She has no solidarity with the people of Silot. She has antipathy to the people of Silot. Now, as compared to her, as contrasted with her, Monica Ali, that is, the personality and the attitude of this Siloti-born woman called Rushnara Ali may be cited, but such attempt at creating a decent, elegant citation would fail because Rushnara Ali herself is a mental slave of extreme perversion in her understanding of who she is and what the community is and how she became to be a member of parliament in the first place. Now, it's because of the corruption, the widespread corruption, ignorance, stupidity, and mental servitude that exists within the Bangladeshi population, even in Tower Hamlets, that there is no real ongoing program to hold liars and criminals and mental slaves like Rushnara Ali to account. Now, if the political murderer of the Labour Party, Keir Starmer, manages to get in any way in a forming a government in the UK after the Conservatives collapse at the next relevant election, it is quite easily the thing that Rushnara Ali will be included as a minister. If she is, then she would be a disaster. she would be an absolute disgrace and a disaster. Because for 12 years, Rushna Ali has been in the post as so-called Member of Parliament for Bethnal Green and Bow. She has done nothing. Yet remember the slogan when Hattersley and others encouraged the creation of the Labour Party black section. The slogan said that if black people, and they included the very broadly included in that phrase, people of African background and Asian background together, which is how the perversion called sleaze Vaz, Keith Sleaze Vaz, ended up being counted as a black. He was not black, not Asian, not Muslim, not Hindu. On every count, Keith Sleaze Vaz was a perversion. And it was only him that became a black. In the course of the Labour Party's 1980s exploitation of racism for the Labour Party's pathetic electoral benefit, which never lasted. Because the only one from the black sections, the only one of the 4 black section, quote, MPs elected in 1987, I think, is Diane Darty Abbott. Now, Diane Darty Abbott, the Darty is our word for dirty. Diane Darty Abbott is a creation not of the black community's struggle against racism. Diane Darty Abbott is a product of the creation of the consequence of the racists in the Labour Party, quote, on the left. Like Jeremy Corbyn. Now, Corbyn, according to the kind of detailed claims published by the Daily Mail group, Corbyn and Abbott were sexual partners. I say sexual partners as opposed to lovers, because Corbyn was already married to a woman called Christine Chapman while he was having sex with Diane Abbott. And the fact that he was having sex with Diane Abbott was put on exhibition by Corbyn himself, inviting some of his so-called co-leafletier white friends to his place of that time, where Diane Abbott was found in bed in a position that the Daily Mail has described in detail that is not very dignified. Diane Abbott, the dirty Diane Abbott, has not shown any solidarity with ordinary thinking, ordinary current, or the ordinary contemporary anti-racist thinking internationally on the part of black people, African people, Asian people, Caribbean people in this country. Diane Darty Abbott was given a job just to kind of keep her in a paid, affluent position by the lying Ken Livingstone Livingstone, who was Miss Leader of the Greater London Council. So Diane Darty Abbott was given a job as the, quote, as a press officer at the GLC. Now it has been my job to interrogate criminals like Diane Darty Abbott. And when I interrogated her, I found that she was as empty as I had said she was. She didn't want to say anything about the GLC. She didn't want to answer any questions about the GLC. She didn't want to answer any question about the GLC's role in creating, perpetrating racism in Greater London. Like I did with the Livingstone himself. I disrupted about 200 to 300 meetings or events during 3 years or so in County Hall between 1980, 82, 83 till 1986. I disrupted those events in order to disrupt Ken Livingstone, the liar. Because all the socialists and all the capitalists and all the fascists on all sides who did not like Ken Livingstone, they lacked one thing, which I had, which is the evidence. I had the evidence of Livingstone lying right, left, and center through his teeth. And what would happen? For several years, I did this. I would travel quite early to the county hall in order to catch Livingstone the liar out when he would mount or hold court before some pet journalists, making all kinds of claims about the world. In fact, I can reveal that it was Ken Livingstone, not Boris Johnson, who came much later. Ken Livingstone, who behaved like the king of the world. Now, Ken Livingstone, even if he was leader of the Greater London Council, could not support a claim that he was the king of the world. That is to say, that his reach reached many parts of the world. It didn't. This is 2 hours 17 minutes, and the time is, what is the time? 16:49 hours GMT, 17:49 hours UK local time. Now, as I have touched on the Ali Asghar, the prostitute, that was the midget prostitute, that was given a PhD by the University of Birmingham. The University of Birmingham is part of the prostitutes who are procured by the moneyed people from the Asian subcontinent. And they're presented as the members of the so-called Russell Group of universities, British universities. Now, if the evidence of the midget prostitute, Ali Asghar, is any guide, then Britain is sinking even at the academic level as well, as it is sinking elsewhere. So, Ali Asghar was a midget employed at what had been called the Council of Citizens of Tower Hamlets, CCTH. Now, the CCTH was formed in the 1960s, I think, and at a point where Joe Hunt of the Nigger Hunt was found to have no jobs, he was given this job of sitting there as the CE, as the race relations officer at the CCTH. And by sitting there and lying, Joe Hunt was given the equivalent of £100,000 today, I would say. So Joe Hunt was the community relations officer, and under him was this midget, Ali Asghar. The midget Ali Asghar was not known to me, shouldn't have been known to me at all. I only encountered him by accident when I went to continue the interrogation of the liar, Joe Hunt. Now, I met this midget Ali Asghar sometime in 1980. 1980 is the year, that was the 19th of December 1980, when I first published the weekly Adhikar, Adhikar, which means rights, on the 19th of December. We'll be talking about more about the Adhikar more. But one editorial that I ran on the Adhikar, which was manually typed by Azizul Haq, the late Azizul Haq, who had not slept for 5 days non-stop and was almost at death's door, as was I because of the lack of sleep. It was that physically that demanding, producing a paper, typing a paper of absolutely unprecedented quality of design and presentation. So there was an editorial about baggage rules. The baggage rules were rules created by the bureaucrats in Bangladesh to find a way to charge returning Bangladeshis from countries like the UK, USA, Canada, etc., and charge them under the pretext of baggage rules. In fact, it's a robbery skill, robbery ploy. So I wrote an editorial for the Adhikar, which was a long editorial. And the Mijat Ali Asghar physically would kind of physically do things in order to make me happy about his behavior, as if he was like a kind of complying with my requirements. And the midget used to drive a car. One drive that he made, and he drove while I was in his car going from A to Z for some meeting or something. And he praised that particular editorial, the package rules editorial in the Adhikar, as being the most important piece of the subject that he had seen. And he would say similar things every time the midget saw me. During the period of his being still there, a woman called Sandra Compton, a woman from Sandra Compton. Now, where is Sandra Compton? I don't know. But a woman called Sandra Compton arrived at his office from somewhere in the south of England, Kent, Surrey, Lewisham, whatever. And I met her at Ali Asghar's office, where I spent hours talking to her about situation of fighting racism in this country. As the conversation ended, I and Sandra Compton ended up going into her car and traveling and talking, etc., etc. And I think for a few weeks we remained in contact. But something Ali Asghar, the midget, did was again an act of astonishment that only a midget and a prostitute and a Lilliputian can do. Ali Asghar, the midget, got it into his head that I and Sandra Compton were having a relationship. We didn't have a relationship, but I became very fond of Sandra Compton because of her personality, because of her role and attitude, etc. This she proved by embracing me at an event in Euston, the friend's house, where I had gone to see the then visiting American black activist. And she came, I would not have remembered her. I mean, that so vague and hazy was my memory about Sandra Compton at that stage. When she came and embraced me, it felt on a humanitarian, humane level, very warm. So it was Stokely Carmichael that was visiting. And when Stokely Carmichael left the building, the Friends Meeting House, people mainly of African origin were shaking his hand and were embracing him. Now, Sandra Compton wanted to embrace and shake Stokely Carmichael. Now, I had no access to his entourage, but I gave it a go. When I tried to get Stokely Carmichael to shake hands with Sandra Compton, a man called Sam appeared on the scene. Now, Sam was a convicted criminal. Sam was a convicted criminal of West Indian background. And Sam had some kind of history of anti-Asian kind of behavior. And he physically shoved me from near Stokely Carmichael. And he looked at me as if I had done something dirty. All I had wanted was for Sandra to get a opportunity to shake hands or embrace this man. That's all. But this Sam had a bigger reason for hating me. It later turned out that Sam was a lover of Sandra Compton. How would I know? I had absolutely no idea. And Sam was a multiple adulterer. Years before that, and without meeting him, and strictly on the principle, I had campaigned or written a campaigning letter and taken a campaigning stance on behalf of this very Sam against the Inner London Education Authority bureaucracy at that time. Now, as I said, I had not known him, but on the principle that had been established in the papers that I had read, I did what I did was the right thing. But Ali Asghar would not know that, nor would Sam know who I was. Of course, he knew, but he did not know, because there is a trait in the personality of these West Indian background or African background individuals. They suffer from their own insecurity. And I found it common that they are very hostile to me. And they think that whenever I speak of solidarity between the Africans and Asian people, they think I'm doing a career move. Now, they do that because they don't know who I am. They have absolutely no idea of my background or what I have been doing in the background. If I wanted to make a career, you morons, I would have been a prime minister of several decades standing. I would have been a cabinet minister. I would have been a whatever. Think about that. That is the reason why I am independent. I don't want to be indebted to somebody else who is contaminated. Because my mission has been and is to free society from corruption and to free society from the impact of crooks and corruption. So the midget prostitute Ali Asghar got his comeuppance in a short way, but he will get his bigger comeuppance shortly. He had a daughter, and the midget thought that the best way to make his daughter make her way in the world was to keep hanging on to her literally. So when she set up a business, a solicitor's business. The Mijat Ali Asghar foisted himself on the business and demanded that he be appointed the secretary of the solicitor's business. Now, the Mijat at that age was already well past the retirement age. But by lying on the one hand and by abusing and exploiting his only daughter on the other, he and his criminally minded and criminally active wife Mazida, these two crooks, persuaded this poor girl to allow him to be the business's secretary. I shall be continuing in a minute. This is very important. I can't interrupt this, in that I cannot end this edition without putting in a bit more of the substantial information about the prostitute Mijat Ali Asghar and how he destroyed his daughter's solicitor's business. The destruction by Ali Asghar, the prostitute Mijat, and his sly, equally sly, criminal, ignorant, idiotic wife Majida, of their daughter's business, solicitor's business, and solicitor's career, took place when Ali Asghar, pretending to be the more efficient of the team at the solicitor's business based in Whitechapel, not far from the East London Mosque, messed up big time about doing routine procedural filing about the business. So they didn't return the necessary information to the Solicitors Regulation Authority, SRA, which is part of the Law Society. Now, what the Mijat prostitute Ali Asghar does not know, is that I, not anybody else, have been singularly responsible for destroying the Solicitors Law Society's criminal bureaucracy of covering up misconduct by solicitors. After campaigning for many, many years, I caused enough pressure on the Law Society to create this Solicitors Regulation Authority. I did that. And the Regulation Authority is not doing even 10% of the work that I want them to do, and the evidence warrants them to do. And the Solicitors Disciplinary Tribunal, whatever the shortcomings, the SRA did enough against the misconduct of the solicitor's business that Ali Asghar, the midget prostitute, messed up. He failed to return the necessary information, and instead of admitting to that, he tried to blame the other solicitors, partners of our daughter in the solicitor's business, for the singular error and misinformation or mistake that he, the prostitute Ali Asghar, had made himself. Now, let me see if I can find the basic reference to that particular investigation by the Solicitors Regulation Authority of the solicitor's business that Ali Asghar, the midget prostitute, messed up and destroyed. So his daughter, Ali Asghar's daughter, is called Sabina, isn't it? Sabina Asghar. Is it Sabina Asghar? Let's see if it's. This child was a child, obviously, when in the 1980s, the prostitute Ali Asghar kind of supplicated and sucked up to me in a kind of social legitimacy seeking way. This was a child, like she was a primary school child. So there was this solicitors disciplinary tribunal. I think this will be So this is the item this is let's see what all right. His Ali Ashgar, the prostitute midget, had the daughter called Rebecca Sabina Ashgar. Now, Rebecca Sabina Ashgar has got the identity as an SRA regulated kind of admittee, and her regulated number is 32955. That is the reference number. She is not in practice at the present time, as far as I know. Let's check a bit more. So she's Rebecca Sabina Ashgar, SRAID 32955. And let's see. And it says main role not specified. And the reason why the main role is not specified on the website of the SRA is because she is no longer in practice. In fact, her solicitor ambition was fucked up by her midget father, who is a liar and a crook. Now, what we are doing here in this program, in this dissection of the midget, prostitute, liar, and a crook, Ali Ashgar, is putting on the record all the assertions against him and, quote, gently inviting him to take legal action if he doesn't agree. So Rebecca Sabina Ashgar was disciplined by the regulator authority, as were the others who were also solicitors with her in the company that then got scrapped because of Ali Ashgar, the prostitute midget. Ali Ashgar, the prostitute midget, messed up big time. So, will the midget prostitute Ali Ashgar take legal action? Let him do that. I'm saying that again. Because when I made application, the first time I heard about his kind of lies about the East End, I applied to the Central London County Court. And the liar got a piece of apology to the court, probably co-written with his daughter, saying that he was not aware of this, that, and the other, and that he was abroad, etc. So take this, the prostitute liar Ali Ashgar, the midget. You thought that we had noticed all these things about you making claims about being a solicitor and being let down by your colleagues, and also being persistently engaged in lying and fabricating and faking. So these two, daughter and father, will be the subject of serious additional treatment, factual treatment in due course. So we shall be doing the examination of the evidence in due course about the various failings and various lies that Ali Asghar, the major prostitute, was caught having done, perpetrated, thus leading to the collapse of his daughter's solicitor's business. Now, his daughter was also, before she launched her own solicitor business of sorts, she was also recruited by the late Rudi Narayan. Rudi Narayan of Brixton, let's say. Unlike the midget Ali Asghar, I had known Rudi Narayan and I had a record of exposing Rudi Narayan for his outlandish, idiotic, selfish adventures. Rudi Narayan was not the only one. I had also to take action against Patrick Kodikara from Hackney. Kodikara and Rudi Narayan were two of the most selfish, idiotic self-seekers operating in the ethnicity career circuit. I never am an ethnicity career circuiter, nor do I ever need a career. There are so many crooks in so many careers that it will take a very long time of original work which I have been engaged in compiling. So I have no time to indulge in a career. I have emergency duties to smash the wrongdoings and wrongdoers, immediate ongoing attacks on the ordinary people's rights and ordinary people's entitlements. We have other items that we shall be discussing and diagnosing, but this is almost 3 hours, isn't it? So we shall put this particular edition to an end at 17:27 hours GMT, 18:27 hours UK local time on Tuesday, the 9th of August 2022. We shall continue.